Good evening and welcome to All 24 Nightly News, coming to you live from Algiers. I'm your host, Karim Zachary, and up next are the top stories. Devastating Moroccan earthquake claims over 2,000 lives, leaves hundreds injured, and shatters communities with unprecedented destruction. Also coming up, Algeria opens airspace for humanitarian flights to aid Morocco, extends solidarity and reports no casualties in western regions. Also ahead, Niger reacts positively to President Algeria's initiative. Military Council seeks 1 month for formal response. Also in our news, African Union joins G20 amid climate and Ukraine disagreements, while Kiev condemns joint statement. And Russia conditions Black Sea grain export agreement revival and maintains refusal to reconnect agricultural bank with SWIFT. Hello again, and thank you for joining us. First in our news, deadly earthquake strikes Morocco, claims thousands of lives, injures dozens, and causes extensive damage to tourist structures. Moroccan Interior Ministry reported that more than 2,000 were killed and over 1,000 injured, with 200 in critical conditions. Let's get the updates with Zahra Fujani.
In the aftermath of a seismic cataclysm, Morocco's heart lies shattered. This ancient land, rich in history, now bears the scars of the deadliest earthquake in decades. Shortly after 11 p.m. on a fateful Friday night, a colossal of 6.8 magnitude quake rocked the high Atlas Mountains, followed by a grim aftershock that rattled the nation. The toll is staggering. The Moroccan Interior Ministry reports over 1,000 lives lost, with more than 1,200 wounded, and the death toll will rise further, especially in remote mountain villages where aid struggles to arrive. Desperate cries echo through the night as brave souls engage in rescue operations, offering the only glimmer of hope for those trapped beneath the rubble.
We were going to work at night. When we heard about the earthquake, we ran outside, but a wall fell on my head. Then we came to the hospital.
After the Isha prayer, we went to sleep. But after a few seconds, we felt the earthquake and we went out of the house. And after that, the entire house was destroyed.
The terror does not stop there. Panic swept through Marrakesh as hotels quaked, prompting holiday makers to flee, leaving their Moroccan dreams behind.
The room started shaking. There's no other way. We was going backwards and forwards, and everything started moving, and pictures started moving, and so we just grabbed some clothes and our bags, and we raced out.
I don't know. It's like you actually see your whole life flash by for a second or two. You don't even know what to do, what to take. I couldn't say if it was a good experience or the worst experience of my life, but in any case, it's an experience I've been through.
This is no ordinary earthquake. The US Geopolitical Survey deems it the most violent in a century, forewarning widespread devastation. Once indestructible buildings crumbled, forcing thousands to spend nights in public squares. Morocco's history, represented by ancient UNESCO-listed structures, now lies in ruins. The region, its people, and their future all hang in the balance as they grapple with nature's fury.
And in related context, Algerian authorities have opened their airspace for humanitarian aid and support flights following this devastating earthquake in Morocco. The Algerian presidency expressed their full readiness to assist Morocco with humanitarian resources, and at the same time, condolences were extended to the Moroccan people for the earthquake's victims. Algeria expressed sympathy and offered support to the affected families, wishing a swift recovery for the injured. In a related matter, Algeria reported on Saturday that it had not suffered any human or material losses in its western regions due to the destructive earthquake that hit Morocco. The General Directorate of Civil Defense conducted reconnaissance operations in 7 states affected by the earthquake, but no losses were recorded. In our other news, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf met with representatives of the Algerian community in Hungary on Saturday in Budapest. During the meeting, he provided updates on the latest national developments, emphasizing Algeria's progress under President Abdelmajid Tebboun's leadership. This progress includes achievements in political and institutional stability, economic recovery, and the launch of significant development projects. Minister Attaf also highlighted the importance of a strong domestic front to safeguard Algeria's gains in the face of external challenges in the regional and international contexts.
I would also like to address the situation in your country, Algeria, to tell you that it is fine and it is in good hands. Whether we look at the political, economic, and social level, the country is stable. On the political level, there is stability after the years of turmoil that were in Algeria. As a state and as a nation, we're at the beginning of the journey to restore stability to all constitutional and state institutions.
During the meeting, Minister Attaf also briefed the community members about the outcomes of his discussions with his Hungarian counterpart, Peter Szijjártó. They discussed practical steps to enhance cooperation and partnership opportunities between Algeria and Hungary, with a focus on strengthening political dialogue between the two countries.
I am proud and honored by this tradition of the President of the Republic, which is meeting with the Algerian community abroad whenever possible. The aim is to check our community abroad and their conditions in their homeland.
Still with Algerian Foreign Minister activities, Mr. Ahmed Attaf disclosed advanced negotiations for renewing the Algerian gas supply contract to the Turkish market. In an interview with Turkish channel TRT, he discussed efforts to bolster the Algerian-Turkish partnership, highlighting key cooperation areas such as energy, textiles, defense, and shipbuilding.
One of the strategic files is the energy file, and we're working to renew the contract that allows us to supply Turkey with the Algerian gas. There are advanced negotiations which are moving in positive path.
Regarding the crisis in Niger, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf noted that the response to President Abdelmajid Tebboun's initiative has been very positive. He emphasized that the implementation of the Algerian initiative requires the involvement of the Nigerian coup leaders. The ruling military council in Niamey has requested additional time to officially respond to the Algerian initiative. Mr. Attaf confirmed that the coup leaders in Niger have communicated their need for a 1-month period to conduct local and national consultations to formulate a peaceful solution before providing an official response to the Algerian initiative.
For now, the reactions were very positive, but the problem now is the implementation of the Algerian initiative, and the implementation necessitates the participation of the coup leaders themselves. Coup leaders in Niger stated that they need time to organize the situation. They raised 2 points. The first one is that they need a period of time, which they said would be 3 years at the longest. They also said that they will organize local negotiations to reach a comprehensive roadmap.
Algeria has reiterated the importance of pursuing a peaceful and negotiated solution in Niger, while cautioning against the potential consequences of a military resolution. The editorial in the September issue of Algerian Army El Jaish Gazette highlighted Algeria's active diplomatic efforts aimed at establishing a political solution to safeguard Niger from the potential fallout of an escalated situation.
Algeria stressed the necessity of adopting the path of a peaceful and negotiated solutions, warning against the consequences of military solution, as the history of our region is full of lessons that confirm that military interventions have always caused more problems than solutions, and have constituted additional factors for confrontations and division, rather than being a source of stability and security.
The Al Jaish Gazette editorial reaffirmed Algeria's unwavering support for the peace process in Mali and called on Libyan parties to actively participate in a peaceful resolution to their crisis, emphasizing the importance of achieving this without any foreign intervention.
Algeria, as an extension of the African coast, is considered an inevitable actor at the regional and international levels in establishing security and stability, especially in neighboring countries, which it has always sought through its tireless diplomatic efforts to resolve various thorny issues by providing assistance to brotherly and friendly countries in a dedicated manner, the principle of good neighborliness and the embodiment of a comprehensive approach that combines security and development.
To other topical news now. On Saturday, fresh clashes erupted in Ain al-Hilwa Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon, resulting in 3 deaths and 10 injuries. Among the casualties, 2 Palestinians were killed within the camp, while a Lebanese individual sustained injury from a stray bullet while driving outside the camp. Despite a previously agreed-upon ceasefire, these renewed clashes occurred. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati had recently discussed with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas over the need to halt military actions in the Ain al-Hilwa Palestinian refugee camp. The African Union has attained permanent G20 membership, joining the European Union as the only other regional bloc with full status. At the G20 summit, leaders found common ground on climate change and economic development, but refrained from directly condemning Russia's actions in Ukraine and underscoring the internal divisions. Here's Osama Ayadi with more.
The G20 summit, a 2-day gathering of world leaders, wrapped up on Saturday amidst sharp differences of opinion. The group of 20 issued a joint statement that steered clear of condemning Russia for its actions in Ukraine. Instead, it urged all nations to refrain from using force to seize territory. This consensus was unexpected, given the deep divisions within the G20 regarding the Ukraine conflict. Western nations had initially pressed for a strong condemnation of Russia in the leaders' declaration, while others insisted on focusing on broader economic matters.
Obviously, there are differing viewpoints and interests at play in regard to the various issues under discussion. However, we have been able to find common ground on all of them.
During the summit held in India, the African Union secured a permanent seat at the G20 table, a coalition of the world's wealthiest and most influential countries. This move aims to enhance the group's representation. Modi made the announcement inviting the AU, represented by Chairperson Azali Assoumani, to join as a permanent member in his opening remarks.
Before talking any further, I would request the African Union head to take his seat as permanent G20 member.
Notably, the summit unfolded without the presence of Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. This absence highlighted stark political divisions and raised concerns about future crises and climate goals. The New Delhi summit underscored a growing global divide that hampers international efforts to address pressing global issues.
In a related matter, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry voiced criticism of the G20's joint declaration regarding the Russian military operation. The ministry spokesman expressed pride in their stance and argued that Ukraine's participation in the meeting could have provided a better understanding of the situation to the participants. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized his country's allies for easing sanctions on Russia. In his speech, he called for a renewed push to impose stricter measures on Moscow, emphasizing the importance of maintaining pressure on Russia, particularly in the energy, precision electronics, and financial sectors.
At this time, we see a long pause on the part of our partners regarding sanctions and very active Russian attempts to avoid sanctions. There are 3 priorities: imposing more sanctions on the Russian energy sector and imposing real restrictions on supplies to the terrorists of microchips and microelectronics in general, and continue to close the Russian financial sector. The global sanctions campaign must resume.
And elsewhere, Russian authorities are holding local elections in Ukrainian territories under the control in order to elect regional legislatures, which in turn will appoint regional governors. During a United Nations Security Council meeting on Friday, Russia defended the process while the United States and other Western nations condemned the elections as a sham and urged member states to reject the results. For his part, Russian President Vladimir Putin voted online in Moscow mayor elections at the Kremlin in Moscow.
I asked residents of the regions where elections are being held these days to take part in the election. Moreover, election procedures in our country are organized as conveniently as possible. I mean both a 3-day voting at polling stations and an opportunity to cast the vote remotely. Electronic voting is becoming more and more popular every year, expanding its geography. More and more voters trust it and take advantage of this opportunity. I hope that each of you will show responsible civic engagement. Thank you.
Still with Russia-Ukraine file, Russian president stated that the grain deal won't be reinstated until Western nations fulfill their commitments to facilitate Russian agricultural export. In response, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres informed Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov in a letter that Russia could actually apply for membership and access to the SWIFT banking system for food and fertilizer transactions, but Moscow remains skeptical. Let's turn to Salman Asib now for more details.
The grain agreement continues to make headlines as Russia sticks to its conditions for a return to the Black Sea deal, which it quit in July. Despite the active engagement of the United Nations trying to improve Russia's grain and fertilizer export, Moscow remains skeptical.
The president of Russia has already firmly stated that the conditions are well known. They are agreed upon. It is now said that the West is probably ready to promise to reconnect the state agricultural bank subsidiary to SWIFT. The agreements say tough that the bank itself needs to be reconnected to SWIFT, not its subsidiary. So what we're saying is that we need to return to the foundation, to the initial agreements that we were promised to be fulfilled. The president was clear in saying that once the agreements were fulfilled, the deal will be resumed at once, not the other way around. But there were already a lot of promises given to us. We think it was our right and obligation first to wait till the conditions are fulfilled and then to resume the deal.
The United Nations is ready to move on all measures, based on the clear understanding that their application would lead to the Russian Federation's return to the Black Sea Initiative and the full resumption of operations.
Since refusing to renew the deal allowing Ukraine to export grain across the Black Sea, Russia has repeatedly targeted alternative export routes along the river Danube. Russia wants compromises from the Western Ukraine to soften its approaches in talks over reviving the deal and export more grain to Africa rather than Europe. Ukraine, on the other hand, said it would not alter its stand and be hostage to Russian blackmail. This stiff situation sends a shiver through some of the world's poorest countries, many of which are already reeling from inflation and conflict shocks.
100% of all Somalis use wheat. We pray to God for peace in Ukraine and everywhere. Let all wars stop. And we hope grain routes will remain open, God willing. If the Black Sea route is closed, we anticipate wheat price will go as high as $30 or $28 or $29. We hope the Black Sea route will remain open.
To address this pressing issue, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres continued to make efforts to persuade Moscow through access to SWIFT banking system for food and fertilizer transactions. However, these recent proposals do not contain any new elements and could not serve as a foundation for making any tangible progress, according to Russia.
And in Asia, the North Korean state-run television reported on Saturday that Kim Jong-un marked the country's founding anniversary with a parade of paramilitary groups. The parade was kicked off with a parachute unit's performance. Later, rocket launchers hidden in delivery trucks and tractors, towing troops and weapons took to the streets, highlighting the militia's role as guerrilla fighters in a war.
조국 건설의 애국의 땀방울 늠름한 모습 자랑차 사회주의 전야를 달리던
우리 군복을 입고 열병 광장에 나섰습니다.
우리 빛은 누리.
And in other news, Maldives polls closed at 4 p.m. on Saturday with final results expected Sunday. A closely contested presidential election seen as an India-China battle for influence has President Ibrahim Solih slightly ahead, seeking a second term with an India-first policy. His rival, Mohammad Muizzu, leans toward China and has an India-out campaign. A second-round vote on September 30th will decide the winner if no candidate secures a majority. And elsewhere in Europe, floods in Greece have caused widespread devastation, leading authorities to intensify rescue efforts to relocate stranded individuals to safer locations. In Greece, 10 people have lost their lives and 4 are still missing. Islam Sid reports.
In the aftermath of severe rainstorms, dozens of villages in multiple regions were submerged, with rooftops being the only visible thing of the flood's impact. These rainstorms caused dams to burst, sweeping away roads and bridges, and even throwing cars into the sea. Many of the affected areas were left without power and access to clean drinking water.
At least we managed to get out and not drown. There were so many people inside, including small children. The water was up to here. We went to a 2-story house here and were hosted by the people until today. And now we came and saw this.
Likely to rise further, the death toll stands at 10 for now, with 4 individuals still missing, and rescue efforts are still underway.
At the last moment, a person came with a boat and took us out. We were going to drown. There were suddenly 3 to 4 meters of water.
Helicopters and boats were mobilized, working around the clock to evacuate hundreds of people from inundated villages to safer ground. Some choppers were being used to ferry food and water to flood-stricken areas. By late Friday, over 2,800 people had been rescued, with at least 420 individuals airlifted to safety from 14 villages.
More than 2,850 people have been rescued since the beginning of the bad weather. There are still many people in the villages around Karditsa, Palmas, and toward Trikala. They're not missing, they're trapped.
It's worth noting that Greece was not the only one affected. Bulgaria and Turkey also faced similar floods, claiming the lives of 22 individuals across all 3 countries since the rains began on Tuesday. Storm Daniel, which meteorologists said was the worst to hit the country since 1930, adds to the massive trail of destruction after record-breaking heat waves, which ignited huge wildfires, devastating forests, farmlands, homes, and claiming over 20 lives.
And in some topical news, a former British soldier facing terrorism charges who escaped from a London prison by clinging to the underside of a food delivery truck was captured on Saturday. Daniel Abed Khalif, 21, had been on the run for 4 days. He had escaped from Wandsworth Prison's kitchen and was apprehended while riding a bicycle along a canal path west of London. Khalif was awaiting trial for violating the Official Secrets Act, accused of gathering information potentially useful to an enemy and placing fake bombs at a military base. He had been discharged from the British Army and denied the charges.
As a result of that operation, we had a number of calls from the public that cited Daniel Khalif in the area. We deployed to each of those calls and treated them as confirmed sightings. And put quite a lot of additional resource from the Metropolitan Police and the Counter-Terrorism Command into the area. And then this morning at 10:41, he was seen by a plainclothes counter-terrorism officer and on a push bike on the canal towpath. And he was pulled off that push bike and arrested by that officer.
Finally, in our news, Daniil Medvedev shocked defending champion Carlos Alcaraz to move into the US Open final, denying Well, that concludes today's program. For the latest updates, check our social media channels. Thank you for tuning in and join us again tomorrow for more news. Goodbye.